A pleasure to meet y'all at last, and welcome to the third piece of the Air Bud series. Today on Wednesday, I'm going to be covering the third film known as Air Bud World Pup. This was the point where Disney decided to take back their own franchise after they had seen the success with the first film and the failure that was the second film. But to be fair, it was more than essential, because with the Golden Retriever that can do five sports films were indeed necessary for this piece, and being that this was the first, it focused on football, or soccer, depending on what you prefer. In any case though, this was the third film in the series, and Disney actually managed to save this piece. Because while this was actually non-theatrically released, in Filipino theaters is where it did play at times, we once again have Kevin Zegers up in front with the cast, with other actors like Dale Midkiff and Caitlin Walks. But then of course, there's Bill Bannerman, who did the directing job. And it seems that with every installment in the Air Bud series, someone new takes over. And they have their own field for the series, but it's kind of been just a mixed bag in terms of what results were like. The first being a success because of how Charles Martin Smith pulled it off, and then with the not so good piece that was Air Bud Golden Receiver. How could the third film prevail? Well, it's quite simple really. As mentioned before, this does center on football, totally different from the likes of what NFL and basketball had put together. Because what we happen to have here is something that follows up with the events of Air Bud Golden Receiver in a really good way. First of all, this does take place years after the events of the tournament that occurred with the Timberwolves scoring that epic win on the yard line. And Buddy, while he didn't necessarily make the final shot, it was his owner, Josh Fram, who pulled it off. And since Kevin Zegers is back at it again, we at least do get to have more of his unique performance. Being in a more teenage sort of state, you would think that things would be different. Of course, as mentioned before, there was Dr. Patrick Sullivan, whom did in fact get married, along with Josh's mother, Jackie. And what we have here in the third film is a situation where we happen to get a happy story. However, there's basically a bit of a dilemma going on, because Josh and Tom Stewart, whom have been friends, especially since they met up with each other in basketball, and managed to score not only a win in that sport, but the NFL sport as well, they actually look into a third sport, this being football. Their coach had revealed that the team will be known as a co-ed operation. Emma Putter, whom happens to be part of a wealthy family, also encounters Josh. And well, she comes all the way from England due to her mother also passing the torch. And so, it basically boils down to a certain series of events in which that connections between Josh and Emma do get pretty large pretty quickly. Knowing that Josh lost his father and Emma lost her mother, you could see that there is some sort of desire. Since they have different things in common, it only seemed likely that a relationship was coming too. However, it is in fact revealed that during some practice sessions that were going on, well, it turns out Buddy not only has the ability to play basketball and NFL, but also football. So this really goes to show, you got a dog that can do 3 different sports and without any effort or training. It just seems to come up as some sort of gift. And some might think that this was actually a weird way to go. But to be fair, not all of us were really expecting to have multiple Air Bud films. But look at how well they've done nowadays. Lots of new films have since been added since the start of the millennium, for crying out loud. Oh, but you know what? Well, the fact that Buddy is able to score a goal, much like how he was able to score touchdowns and hoops, it really goes to show. You got a dog with talent, with a capital T. Of course, what we have here is an event. An event that is unlike any other. But of course, even before most of the games are set to take place with the Timberwolves football team, Josh is in fact invited by Emma Potter to in fact have a party at her house. And well, there's a lot of people there. And well, wouldn't you believe that Tom, of all the outfits he could have picked to go to a party, he ends up dressed like one of those English soldiers? And a kilt? Huh. But hey, you know what? There actually happens to be, believe it or not, a female golden retriever known by the name of Molly. And you know what? As we probably know by now, is the connection between Buddy and Molly in a similar regard to how Josh and Emma have put together their own unique relationship, where eventually Buddy and Molly are set up to, in fact, have themselves quite the display. And I'm sure a lot of us know where we're going at here, right? You know? Yeah. Buddy and Molly would result in the manifestation of 5 puppies, each carrying on the unique sporting talent from basketball to volleyball. But, like I've said, that is a while after from this point, you know, just years later. In any case, though, this party does in fact take place, and what eventually goes down is that the team itself, Josh, Tom, etc., the Timberwolves football team themselves, do in fact get themselves a chairman known as Jack Stearns. And well, apparently, the committee itself responsible for handling the team basically wanted to utilize Chairman Stearns to ban the team. So think about this for a minute. You have a dog who was on the basketball team with the Timberwolves and the Timberwolves NFL team, but now a football team? And now you're going to ban them? Now you're going to ban the team? 3 films in it took for this to finally happen. So there was absolutely no problem with it whatsoever. There was no rule against it. There was no ordinance against it. And there was no policy against it. So why stop now when you could have done this the first time around? Then again, the Timberwolves wouldn't have had any success whatsoever, and they wouldn't have had this much attention from the get-go. So that's just weird. Oh, but you know what though? We're only getting started on the real dilemma here when it comes to the entirety of this session. Because as mentioned before, you know what happens when Buddy and Molly get together? They eventually do in fact have their puppies. 6 puppies. Yeah, so not just 5. Yeah, unlike what the Air Buddies have given us. In any case though, we basically do have themselves, well, there's plenty of competition that goes on within this film as well. So, as if the first 2 films weren't good enough, here we go with football action. It's like a FIFA party down there. And the Timberwolves are in fact basically not only banned because of Buddy, but there was supposedly, well, some confrontation that goes on. A lot of drama that settles on, and it is insane. I mean, thankfully it's eventually settled out with the Timberwolves being brought back into the league, and the team itself does in fact get to move on to the state championships. And well, a rival team known as the Spartans is up against them. So the Timberwolves and the Spartans, in their football gear and their actual footballs, they proceed to kick off a unique game. A unique way to not only finish off this film, but also to give us quite a crazy idea. And well, there eventually does come a point in life where family is what matters at this point. Because what happens here, there's basically some issues that take place. There's basically Geoffrey Potter. And well, he's actually, believe it or not, Emma's father. And there was apparently a butler named Webster, played by Don McMillan. And apparently, he was meant to take care of Molly during her pregnancy with the 6 puppies. And well, there was apparently a motive for kidnapping. Apparently there was a man known as Snurbert. And well, there was also the guy who wanted the puppy. It was Webster himself. And well, they're eventually driven to the stadium. All the puppies were in fact brought over to assist. And well, after this kidnapping ordeal, I mean, what could they possibly gain from kidnapping these puppies? Or the dogs in general? I mean, it was crazy enough when you had Buddy himself, whom was hit by an abusive owner, and then set free in court. And then with the second film, you have 2 Russians and a crazy circus that tried to put together Buddy and a chimpanzee. They eventually break out of all this. And then there's just some random kidnapping happening from a guy named Snurbert. So it's really the point here where film number 3 just has a lot of questionable parts in the plot. But overall, it's just a bit acceptable for what it is. I mean, you can't really argue with it that much. When you watch so many films like I have, it does sometimes get a bit out of hand. But in the end, the Timberwolves do in fact manage to get themselves a win here. And well, it was all thanks to Buddy's efforts. Once again, so much like how Buddy was able to score a winning basket and a winning touchdown, now he scored the winning goal. And well, the United States women's national soccer team was basically made possible thanks to Buddy. And well, the FIFA Women's World Cup had been won due to a penalty shootout against Norway. And once again, we are met with a happy ending here. This time involving the puppies. So, 2 more films, however, would come along before we would eventually be treated to Air Buddies. As I've said before, I don't know if I would make an entire series dedicated to Air Buddies, but maybe that could come along later. In any case though, I will see you guys later with more content, and of course with the 2 remaining films in the Air Bud series, you'll want to stick around at this point. And in terms of scoring for Air Bud World Pup, probably better in a way than Golden Receiver, but maybe no more than a 7.4 out of 10.1. Some questionable bits and some repeats in history. It kind of gets old after some time. So make sure to like, subscribe, comment, follow me wherever you can find me, and stay on the Hollywood side for more.
Whenever I want, I usually get, and I'm thinking I want you, but I don't have you yet. I ain't got no tricks to be playing on you.